I'd love to have another fish aquarium. I thought taking care of fish was fun. A lot of work though. It is. Cleaning the tank and doing proper upkeep if you want your fish to be healthy is a lot of work, but a lot of people get fish tanks and just like leave that. They barely do anything. I hate that because it's just like they just do so wrong by their fish all the time. I had a fish tank a long time ago and it was really nice to have, but when my last of my fish passed, I could not get rid of that tank sooner. I was so glad to not have it. You ever consider other types of pets? I've had other types of pets all the time. I don't think any of them are worth it. Genuinely, I think it's worth it having a dog or cat because of the way they interact with you. I think all the others, you can still bond with other animals, but it is not nearly the same as the way you can bond with a dog or a cat because dogs and cats have been bred for so long to be that. It's just not worth it. Like I've had everything. And those other animals still kind of bond with you, but they don't see you the same way a dog or cat sees you. You know what I mean? So yeah, I don't really think you actually should get other animals as pets really unless you're studying them or you're saving one, you're rescuing one. I wouldn't go out and just get one and support people breeding these other like random ass animals as pets personally. I think birds are really good as the other one that I think it is worth, but they're so hard to take care of and most people, they don't do right by their birds, so I wouldn't recommend it for most people. Genuinely, I think most people do not do right by their birds to a crazy degree. But I have had birds in the past and I really did love them. They're just any smart bird gets so attached to you. It's like having a toddler constantly. Genuinely, they need so much attention. And unless, I'd say if you're retired or you're at home all the time and you have nothing to do, go get that bird. You're going to love it. It's going to, fill your life with joy. But if you're not in that situation, I wouldn't get one because you're going to have to leave it alone a lot of the time and they can't handle that emotionally. It's just sad for them, So, yeah. I really want a cow. Kind of hard to do that in the city. Cows and horses are pretty smart too, and you can genuinely bond with them too. Horses especially. But that's a separate consideration because that's a ranch animal and that's not a keep it in your house kind of animal. Pigs too. Pigs can be really great to keep, but again, very smelly. Must be kind of on a ranch sort of situation. So I'm not putting them in the same bucket as like a house pet. But yeah, I like having cats. They do genuinely bond with you. Anyone who says cats don't is stupid. They're just wonderful. And taking care of them is not that hard. You have to put effort in to train them well, but the day-to-day isn't crazy. What about a pet rat? I've had rats. They're very sweet. I like them. They die within a year or two. They have very short lifespans. It's not... If you're rescuing one, go for it. But I wouldn't really seek out a pet rat. I had rats and I love them a lot. And then, boom, they were just gone very quickly. And I was like, I don't see the reason in creating more of that. If I found a rat that needed help, I would save it and rescue it and keep it, if it needed to be kept. But usually they don't need to be kept. Owning chickens is fun when you have the yard. Yeah, chickens can kind of bond with you the same way other birds can. They're less smart. But yeah, that's another, have a yard, keep outside kind of pet for the most part. But yeah, I think cats and dogs are where it's at. They've been bred for an incredibly long time. Incredibly long to live alongside humans, to live alongside people. So they're pretty good. Chinchillas. Do you need two of them? I know a lot of people that have had one. I don't know much about chinchillas. I like their care. I know they can get really stressed really quickly. I'm pretty sure they take a lot of effort. They can't get wet either. I've got a friend currently who has a chinchilla and I make them send me pictures occasionally. Ferret enjoyers enjoy their ferrets, but they sound like so much work. Yeah, I'd say ferrets aren't too bad. They are an animal that you need to keep caged a lot of the time. Like you can't leave them alone too much. You can take them out of the cage though. They don't have to be in there all the time, but you have to keep an eye on them. They're naturally a little destructive of things. It's hard to teach them not to be because they just can't really, they can't comprehend that or why. It's not like a dog or a cat where you can teach them what you do and don't want them to do. Like dogs and cats don't need to understand why you said no, right? But ferrets can't really. They can't really do that. So it's not really worth getting. They can be stinky. You can do this thing where you like remove their glands or you do something to their glands. I don't know. But they're just like not really, they still kind of stink because of their habits. It's just a different stink. And I feel like, I don't know. I feel like they're just not worth because you bond with them kinda, but like why get one when you could just get a cat that you don't have to cage or a dog? They can interact with you more, they bond with you more. It just feels like a less good version of like the pets you could already get. The only difference is like they're long. If you're like, oh, I want a long boy, okay. It just feels like if a dog or cat is like S tier pet, then a ferret's like B tier. They do all the same things, but like a little worse, a little messier, a little smellier. I still think they're great though. It's just like, I don't know. I personally don't like owning pets that you have to keep caged. That was the one thing I hated about having birds. I would have loved to just leave them out all the time, but like you cannot with a bird. You have to put them back in their cage when you're not around and kind of train them to be like, this is your room. When I go to bed, you're in your room. You know, like they just, you have to do that, you know? I do miss having a dog though. I do. I don't want to get another one though. I just want to like play with someone else's dog and be like, that's cool. And then go on my way. I don't know. Thinking about having one again. I think what I miss having a big ass dog. That's what I miss. Like you could have the biggest cat in the world and they're not that big compared to a big ass dog. My last dog, she was pretty big. She was pretty big. And then my dog before that was like bigger than me. Legitimately, even now, bigger than me. So husky too big? Nope. I think don't get big dog unless you are going to be the greatest trainer in the world though. Nothing is worse than an untrained dog that could easily hurt someone on accident or purposefully. And it's like 90 pounds, you know, like it's bad enough that like little dogs that are untrained just still let go and bite people and stuff. But when you have like a big one, like an untrained German Shepherd, though they tend to not be aggressive with people for no reason, but you know what I mean? Untrained Shepherd that's like huge, could easily knock down a child, and it's like untrained, and then it does knock down a child and like bite them a little bit. You know, like shit like that is just unexcusable. It's the person's fault. If you're like new to having dogs, I'm telling you, and I'll say it every time, get a fat piece of Labrador who doesn't want to hurt nobody. Get yourself a golden retriever and teach them not to jump people, okay? Get a little dachshund and teach it to be nice. Dude, a little dachshund who just wants to like lay down on people, man. I prefer medium-sized dogs so I don't have to pick up arm-length poops. My Pyrenees, he shit so much. He ate so much and his poops were like the size of my leg. He was a big boy, okay? It wasn't his fault. He was a big boy. I had to teach him so hard not to be aggressive because he had like this natural aggression in him because he was a guard dog. They're a guard breed that guard sheep herds. You know, and they have like really strong instincts toward doing their work. And he did not like people coming near me or near where I lived or anything. And I had to stay on him. And he would never actually get aggressive with someone. He would never actually bite someone or anything like that. You know, unless I like told him to. But I always stayed on top of him so he didn't even look aggressive because he would scare people a little if I didn't tell him not to, you know. He'd like warn everybody, you know. He was a big boy, man. He was huge dog. I loved that dog though. Loved that dog. He was great. We do that chuff thing where he lets out a grunt instead of a full bark. He would do both. He was huge and he seemed like he was too big to bark sometimes. Like he treated it like it was a chore. So he'd do this thing where he wasn't growling, but he'd go like, and it was him trying to vocalize, but he didn't want to open his mouth. And sometimes people would think he was growling at them and they'd be like, your dog is growling, he's aggressive. And I'd be like, no, he's just lazy. He's a fat piece of, you know. And I'd look at him and I'd be like, open your mouth. And you go like, oh, you do like the husky noise a little bit, you know. And they'd be like, oh. I'd be like, he's just lazy and doesn't want to open his mouth. And then sometimes he would boo. Yeah, boo. He wouldn't like bark like with his mouth open wide. He never liked to bark like that. He'd just go boo. He was so good. He would howl though. He had that howl, and it wasn't like full wolf howl, but he would, if another dog howled, he'd immediately put his head up and go ooh. It was cute. It was cute because my dog, my last dog, she didn't really howl much. But yeah, I love that dog. I think if I had like a big property in the future, I would consider getting one. I just would need like a spot. This is what you need if you have a Pyrenees. You need a deck, a shaded deck for that dog to sit on so it can stare outside and just stare all day at the grass so he feels like it's defending, you know, your like you just need that for those dogs because that's naturally what they want to do. Because I had him in a, you know, more urban environment and he would sit at the window and just guard. And if I took him to a park and he was at the park with me, he would want to sit somewhere. And it was like, he was like the parent. He wanted me to go play and he would sit there and watch. Like that was what he liked to do. So when I would do like certain sports, I'd just like leave him sitting under a little tent somewhere and he'd just watch and I'd go do my thing and he'd just sit there and make sure everything was all right. And he was so happy to do that. That's what he wanted to do, you know? So like genuinely loved that dog, man. I would easily get another, but I would only do it if I had a big property this time. He always wanted to be outside too. I had like a little balcony and he would sit on it and I'd be like, hey, it's really fucking hot, come in. And he'd be like, no. And he would just want to sit out there. So I'd just let him. I would just let him. But that was what he loved, you know, and I couldn't tell him otherwise. How many dogs did you had? I've had 3 in my life, technically 4. My last dog, my girl, she was part lab, part border collie, mostly border collie. Then before that, my boy who was a Pyrenees. And then before that, I don't remember what he was actually. I had another dog before that. He was some sort of mix. Definitely had some German Shepherd in him, but I don't remember what he was fully. I don't think we knew what he was, if I'm being honest with you. We could make a lot of guesses, but he was very muddy, but looked like a German Shepherd in like the face. Not the same colors, but he had that type of like head shape. Some sort of shepherd. I had him, and then there was one dog before that that I barely remember. I didn't always have dogs though; it was on and off. Loved that dog though; he was so good. He was huge though. He was big for a Pyrenees, which is like scary. I didn't know he would get that big. We didn't know he'd end up being one of the huge ones. You know, he was great though. Wonderful breed, hard to groom though. I think they're like huskies, if not worse, where they have like multiple layers of undercoat. You could brush them for an hour and nothing gets done. You feel like nothing gets done. I did have to deal with so much fur, but I didn't live in a big place. So like cleaning it up was a quick cleanup of a small, not tiny, but you know, small-ish area. And he likes being outside so much. Like I would just take him out and sit down somewhere and brush him outside and just throw his fur straight in the trash outside. Like I would just do that all the time. And it didn't matter. He was super fine in the winter. So even if it was cold, we'd just go outside and I just sit down for a while and brush him. And other people like recognized him. So they'd see me sitting there and brushing him. They'd be like, oh, look who it is. And they'd want to say hi to him and stuff. I'd be sitting on a bench. He'd be sitting next to me. He'd be taller than me because his sitting height, because they're long dogs, his sitting height was huge. So he'd just sit up straight with his back towards me and I'd brush the out of him. And he was just enormous. Like my head was at like his shoulders when sitting down. Crazy.